So Kamala Harris and Tim Walz sat down for an interview with CNN, and it was so great to see reasonable people answer questions in a reasonable tone, without the hate, without the anger, without the resentment, without the revenge, without the retribution. It was so great to hear two people lay out their vision for this country in a way that anyone could understand it. And I don't want to do a bunch of whataboutisms for this video, but I will say this. As you watch the clips that I've picked out to show you here, and you hear their responses, think about how Trump would have answered these same questions. And think about how refreshing it is to see Kamala Harris and Tim Walz answering this way. And think about how great it's going to be once they're in office and they're rolling up their sleeves going to work for this country, and we can just watch Donald Trump fade away. What I love so much, and I want to start right here with this clip, what I love so much is when Kamala Harris was asked about his black comment, she took the high road, and I really respect her for doing this. Take a look.
I want to ask you about your opponent, Donald Trump.
Okay.
I was a little bit surprised. People might be surprised to hear that you have never interacted with him, met him face to face. That's going to change soon. But what I want to ask you about is what he said last month. He suggested that you happened to turn black recently for political purposes, questioning a core part of your identity.
Yeah.
Any?
Same old tired playbook. Next question, please.
That's it?
That's it.
That's right. Don't even engage in that type of rhetoric, because if she'd have fired back, she would have just gave him something else to run on, and they would have dug in their heels and threw mud at her harder. So that was a classy response on her part. I truly respect her for that. And one thing I was really glad to see in this interview is Kamala Harris saying, hey, look, me and Joe Biden have done good things for this country. When we came in at the height of a pandemic, and we brought you guys back. I was so glad to see her reminding the American people of where we were and where they brought us, because everyone else has tried to muddy the water. They're not muddying the water here. They're speaking clearly, and let's keep rolling with these clips.
Let's start with the fact that when Joe Biden and I came in office, during the height of a pandemic, we saw over 10 million jobs were lost. People, I mean, literally, we were all tracking the numbers. Hundreds of people a day were dying because of COVID. The economy had crashed. In large part, all of that because of mismanagement by Donald Trump of that crisis. When we came in, our highest priority was to do what we could to rescue America. And today, we know that we have inflation at under 3%. A lot of our policies have led to the reality that America recovered faster than any wealthy nation around the world. But you are right. Prices, in particular for groceries, are still too high. The American people know it, I know it, which is why my agenda includes what we need to do to bring down the price of groceries. For example, dealing with an issue like price gouging. What we need to do to extend the child tax credit to help young families be able to take care of their children in their most formative years. What we need to do to bring down the cost of housing. My proposal includes what would be a tax credit of $25,000 for first-time home buyers, so they can just have enough to put a down payment on a home, which is part of the American dream and their aspiration, but do it in a way that allows them to actually get on the path to achieving that goal and that dream.
I think it's very important that Kamala Harris continues to remind us of where we were when they came into office. It was Donald Trump and his mishandling of COVID, and really his mishandling of the entire presidency, that led us to where we were. And they brought us back from such a dark place and put us back on the path to recovery. And they need to keep digging in their heels and pointing that out and taking credit for that and being proud of that. That's one thing about Democrats and their messaging. For years, people have said they've been off with their messaging, and I agree with that to an extent they have. I think it's important to remind people of where they've been and remind people of the work that they put in to fix this. Meanwhile, while they're trying to fix the problems that Donald Trump mishandled and couldn't fix himself, he's sitting over here on the sidelines cheering for things to not get done so he can get back in and he'll fix it the next time. And we're supposed to believe it. Take a look at this clip.
Say this, that Joe Biden and I and our administration worked with members of the United States Congress on an immigration issue that is very significant to the American people and to our security, which is the border. And through bipartisan work, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, a bill was crafted, which we supported, which I support. And Donald Trump got word of this bill that would have contributed to securing our border. And because he believes that it would not have helped him politically, he told his folks in Congress, don't put it forward. He killed the bill. A border security bill that would have put 1,500 more agents on the border. And let me tell you something, the Border Patrol endorsed the bill. And I'm sure in large part because they knew they were working around the clock and 1,500 more agents would help them. That bill would have allowed us to increase seizures of fentanyl. Ask any community in America that has been devastated by fentanyl what passing that bill would have done to address their concern and a pain that they've experienced.
So you would push that legislation again? I just want to ask
Not only push it, I will make sure that it comes to my desk and I would sign it.
So yeah, he sat back on the sidelines and cheered for them to stop this border bill because he wanted to be the one to take credit for it. But if he was so good at what he did, he would have did it the first time. He didn't. But Kamala Harris reminds us right here that if you keep putting in the work, that's what matters.
I maintain that when we do the work of bringing down prescription medication for the American people, including capping the cost of the annual cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000, when we do what we did in the first year of being in office to extend the child tax credit so that we cut child poverty in America by over 50%, when we do what we have done to invest in the American people and bringing manufacturing back to the United States so that we created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs, bringing business back to America, what we have done to improve the supply chain so we're not relying on foreign governments to supply American families with their basic needs, I'll say that that's good work. There's more to do, but that's good work.
Do you notice how that they realize that there's more work to do? They don't act like America is great just because they're there. They realize that this is an ongoing process, that you have to continue to work to make things better. You don't just magically do it on day one. But speaking of day one, let's take a look at Kamala Harris's response to what's going to happen on her day one, and it's not be a dictator. Take a look.
What did you do day one?
Day one, it's going to be about, one, implementing my plan for what I call an opportunity economy. I've already laid out a number of proposals in that regard, which include what we're going to do to bring down the cost of everyday goods, what we're going to do to invest in America's small businesses, what we're going to do to invest in families, for example, extending the child tax credit to $6,000 for families for the first year of their child's life to help them buy a car seat, to help them buy baby clothes, a crib. There's the work that we're going to do that is about investing in the American family around affordable housing, a big issue in our country right now. So there are a number of things on day one.
Again, it's so good to hear her laying out her plan, laying out her vision for this country, and realizing that we could have a leader who's going to move us forward and not try to take us backwards. That's the thing that I really, going into this election, I just want to keep driving home is we want to keep going forward. We're not going back. We don't want to go back to that time. And we don't want to go back to a time where the other side is the enemy of the people. We don't want to go back to where the other side of the aisle is going to be jailed if they disagree with us. Here's Kamala Harris saying if she was in, she would have put a Republican in her cabinet. Take a look.
Will you appoint a Republican to your cabinet?
Yes, I would.
Anyone in mind?
Yes, I would. No one in particular in mind. We got 68 days to go with this election, so I'm not putting the cart before the horse, but I would. I think it's really important. I have spent my career inviting diversity of opinion. I think it's important to have people at the table when some of the most important decisions are being made that have different views, different experiences. And I think it would be to the benefit of the American public to have a member of my cabinet who was a Republican.
Now, that may not seem like much, but that answer was actually a brilliant answer, and that answer is going to go a long way because that is going to be the type of answer that will appeal to an independent and moderate voter. That's what they want to see. They want to see both sides working together. They don't want this we're all enemies type of rhetoric. So it's good to hear she said that. Not only does that appeal to people like us who does want to reach across the aisle and work to better this country, it also helps with the independents who's tired of the infighting that we've seen in the parties. So now we're going to move on to a couple of clips from Tim Walz. And he just reinforced why I love this dude so much and why he was absolutely the best pick that Kamala could have made. He's talking here about his son, Gus. And again, what I love so much about him and Kamala both is they just don't get in the mud and entertain the rhetoric that's out there. Take a look.
A moment that you shared, that the world shared with your son, Gus. You were speaking, the camera caught him, so incredibly proud of you, so emotional, saying, "That's my dad."
Yeah, I don't know as a father I could have ever imagined that. I'm grateful for so many reasons to be on this ticket, but that moment, to understand what was really important, to have my son feel a sense of pride in me, that I was trying to do the right thing. And it was, you try and protect your kids, it brings notoriety and things, but it was just such a visceral, emotional moment that I'm grateful I got to experience it, and I'm so proud of him. I'm proud of him. I'm proud of Hope. I'm proud of Gwen. She's a wonderful mother, and these are great kids. And I think the one thing is, talking about the era we're in, is our politics can be better. It can be different. We can show some of these things, and we can have families involved in this. And I hope that I hope people felt that out there, and I hope they hug their kids a little tighter, because you just never know, and life can be kind of hard.
And last
I mean, how can you not love the dude? He is just America's dad. And to have him as vice president and possibly a future president, that truly does excite me to know that he's going to be there helping to make this country a better place. And this last clip here, they ask him to talk about, the attacks that J.D. Vance and MAGA is throwing his way. And again, just like Kamala in the beginning, he takes the high road. Take a look.
Governor Walz, the country is just starting to get to know you. I want to ask you a question about how you've described your service in the National Guard. You said that you carried weapons in war, but you have never deployed actually in a war zone. A campaign official said that you misspoke. Did you?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly proud. I've done 24 years of wearing the uniform of this country. Equally proud of my service in a public school classroom, whether it's Congress or the governor. My record speaks for itself, but I think people are coming to get to know me. I speak like they do. I speak candidly. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, and I speak especially passionately about our children being shot in schools and around guns. So I think people know me. They know who I am. They know where my heart is. And again, my record has been out there for over 40 years to speak for itself.
And the idea that you said that you were in war. Yeah. Did you misspeak, as the campaign has said?
Yeah, I said we were talking about, in this case, this was after a school shooting, the ideas of carrying these weapons of war. And my wife, the English teacher, told me my grammar is not always correct. But again, if it's not this, it's an attack on my children for showing love for me, or it's an attack on my dog. I'm not going to do that. And the one thing I'll never do is I'll never demean another member's service in any way. I never have, and I never will.
One other question, because again, this is all new.
Yeah.
I love that response. He's not going to drag J.D. Vance and his military service. He's not going to try to sit and say, my military service was more valuable than yours. He's a class act every step of the way. And it truly excites me to know this is our ticket and to know this is who's going to push our country forward. Folks, I know that it's a t-shirt now. I know it's a bumper sticker. I know it's a cliche that we are not going back, but it's more than that. We need to drive that in our heads every day. We are not going back. Because I have sat here and I've sifted through so many clips of Donald Trump to play for you guys and say, listen what he's saying now. And we've just been on this roller coaster with this idiot from the minute he came down that escalator. Now we've got a ticket that can finally put an end to MAGA and all their hateful, just cruel rhetoric. We don't want to go back to that. We don't want to give them the power again. We want to move this country forward where Democrats, Republicans are working together, where we're coming up with good ideas, better ideas to move the country forward and not try to take us back and strip away rights from everyone that we disagree with. I'm excited about this election. I'm excited about this ticket, but we got to get them over the finish line. Do not take your eye off the ball or hesitate for 1 second. Okay, don't let this one slip away. Because we have a wonderful ticket right there. Two people who can sit there and take questions like grown adults. It's so refreshing. But let's just stay focused and let's get them over that finish line.